Hello everyone, welcome to Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. North Korea's military provocations ranging from military spy satellites to ICBMs and thorny remarks made 2023 a year filled with tension. With major elections scheduled for 2024, eyes are on the regime and the peninsula's status quo throughout the new year. And so, Within the Frame aims to talk about how such intensified tensions might develop in 2024. If time allows us, we will also aim to ask our expert on Seoul's domestic politics and the status of Korean content as well, in an effort to celebrate the new year. Now, without further ado, we would like to introduce today's special guest, Dr. Shin Gi-wook, William J. Perry Professor of Contemporary Korea at Stanford University. He is also the director of the Walter H. Shorenstein Asia Pacific Research Center. Welcome, Dr. Shin.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us, Dr. Shin. Now, I'd like to begin with diplomacy first. Now, from launching a military spy satellite to firing 5 ICBMs last year alone, what is North Korea's intention and what's your forecast in terms of future provocations?
In my view, their intention is super clear. They like to become a nuclear state with ICBM capability to reach the United States. So this will not only enhance their national security, but also will put them in great position to negotiate with Washington in the future. So therefore, they will continue to enhance their nuclear and missile capability. In a sense, it's a great time for them to do so because no one is working to stop or slow down North Korean efforts to enhance their military power.
Right, so North Korea would continue with their provocations in order to become a nuclear state. Now, Dr. Shin, among the major elections taking place in 2024 is, of course, the U.S. presidential election. And all eyes are on whether Donald Trump will get a chance to begin his second administration. And if he does, some say he might display some tolerance for the regime's nuclear programs. Now, we'd have to wait and see what happens. But if Trump becomes the next U.S. president, how would he deal with Pyongyang?
Right, and of course he is not yet elected, but still it's a good time to speculate what are possible policies, especially foreign policy, he would be taking once he's back to power. So regarding North Korea, I think there are two possibilities. Both of them will create a great challenge for South Korean government. One possibility is to resume negotiation with North Korea. We know that Trump was pursuing a summit diplomacy with Kim Jong-un. And then, of course, it didn't lead to any success. But then he might wanted to resume the talks with North Korea. On the other hand, he may lose any interest in negotiating with North Korea. And in that case, he might support Yoon government in taking a hardline policy toward Pyongyang. I think in both cases, it will create a great challenge for the Yoon government because if Trump resumes negotiation with Pyongyang, then they create tension between Washington and Seoul in dealing with North Korea. On the other hand, if Trump supports Yoon government approach toward Pyongyang, they might increase tensions on the Korean Peninsula. So therefore, both are possibilities, but in either case, they will create a lot of challenges and potential tensions, either between allies or on the Korean Peninsula.
Right, I see. So either way, it is going to be quite challenging for South Korea. So we'd have to prepare well. Well, Dr. Shin, against North Korea's nuclear threats, Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo bolstered trilateral ties more than ever, which included President Yoon's resolution to compensate the victims of Japan's wartime forced labor. However, there are many variables, such as a leadership crisis in Japan, the U.S. election, like I said before, and South Korea's general election. Do you expect three-way cooperation to remain strong, regardless of the outcomes of these events?
Right. So I think so far, Yoon government has done great job in strengthening trilateral cooperation with Washington and Tokyo. And especially, we should give credit to him in taking the initiative in improving relations with Tokyo. But as you mentioned, next year might be quite different, especially if Trump is back to power. I'm sure that the alliance will take a hit. For example, he may, demand more in burden sharing, okay, because that's why he was, asking last time. But during Moon-jae-in government, because of a common interest in North Korea between Moon and Trump, we are able to manage the alliance. But then this time, we will see a similar challenge for the alliance. Likewise, with Japan now, Kishida and Yoon, I think they were having good relations. But now, Kishida is, leadership is under pressure, and it's possible that he may be replaced by a different leader. So, at the worst case, we might see different political leaders in both Washington and Tokyo. Then, Yoon has to reestablish relations with the leaders in both countries. And I think this will be a tough challenge, for him and for the country as well.
Right. Yoon administration would have to reestablish its relationship with both of Japan and the U.S. I see. Now, Dr. Shin, since we have been talking about the three-way cooperation, many point out that the world is seeing a new Cold War paradigm, focusing on China, North Korea, and Russia's alignment, especially when discussing the tension in the East Asia region. But during a recent webinar, you described this as a strategically risky thought. Why is this so?
Okay, I've been saying that we are not entering a new Cold War in Northeast Asia. And we shouldn't be creating a Cold War that doesn't exist. For one thing, during the Cold War, U.S.-Soviet relations was largely military and political, okay? But now, if you look at U.S.-China relations, of course, there are a lot of competition. There are some tensions, but at the same time, they are interdependent. Their relations are much more complicated, okay? In addition, because of that, China has much more stake in the international community. I don't think China wants to side with Russia or North Korea all the time, because once again their relations with global community is very different than those of Russia or North Korea. So that's why having this new Cold War logic can be quite dangerous, can be really misleading. So therefore, we shouldn't really fall into this false logic of new Cold War in Northeast Asia.
Right, I see. So it would be important for us to know that current situation is quite different from the existing, previous Cold War, and we need to know that this is different from the Cold War paradigm that we have been keep talking about. But Dr. Shin, it seems quite important to manage ties with China, according to what you said. So it would not be an exaggeration to say that Seoul-Beijing ties have hit a low point right now. In what ways could Seoul improve relationship with China? I mean, in what areas could the two countries discuss cooperation?
Sure. So before that, let me say that once again, strengthening trilateral cooperation with Washington and Tokyo I mean, it's a great achievement for Mr. Yoon. At the same time, we shouldn't neglect in maintaining or improving ties with Beijing. And of course, it's not easy. Like for example, like during APEC meeting in San Francisco in November, Xi Jinping, met with Biden, of course, and also even met with Kishida, but didn't meet with Yoon. And you don't want to be left out because even though Washington and Tokyo, they have some conflict with Beijing, but still they, continue to talk to Beijing, and then Seoul should do the same thing. But I think in terms of some steps to take for now, I can suggest that there are two things. One is dealing with anti-China sentiment in South Korea. Of course, it's not unique to Korea. It's happening in other parts of the world. But I think it's not good for either country to have very strong anti-China sentiment in South Korea. Also, they need to promote more people-to-people exchange. A few days ago, I read a report that now the number of South Koreans going to China to study dropped. So about 1/5 of the pre-pandemic level. And I think number of Chinese coming to, in South Korea also declined significantly. So I think promoting more people-to-people exchange also, very important. So I think these are more doable for now, but eventually Yoon and Xi has to meet for summit, and then they really, try to engage with each other for common interest.
Right, I see. So South Korea would need to deal with this anti-China sentiment and perhaps promote people-to-people exchanges even more. Now, Dr. Shin, but when it comes to the U.S.-China rivalry, cross-strait relations are a critical and sensitive issue. And as China becomes more and more assertive regarding Taiwan these days, experts are already warning of a military clash. How should South Korea position itself between the U.S. and China regarding this issue?
I think right now in the States, here and also in Japan, there are a lot of discussion about possible military conflict over Taiwan. But it is not as much discussed in South Korea. But I think we should take it very seriously. And I've been saying that the most difficult challenge for South Korean foreign policy might be Taiwan, more so than North Korea. And if any military conflict happens between China and Taiwan, then I think U.S. is likely to get involved, and Japan also. And then what South Korea is going to do, right, between U.S. and China. So in my view, it's a very difficult question. And I don't think there's any great solution. But for one thing, Korea should begin to discuss and prepare for any contingencies. I think that's very important. So, as you know, there's a war going on in Europe and also in Middle East. If anything happens over Taiwan, then North Korea might take some military move as well, if not full-scale war. Then the whole world is dealing with like 3-4 different wars simultaneously. And this will be very difficult, not only for South Korea, but for United States, for Japan. Okay, that's why I keep saying that we should get prepared for the worst case scenario, and we should have some contingency plans.
All right, prepare for contingency plans. Thank you, Dr. Shin, for your advice. Now, shifting gears to politics. You once described South Korean politics as having an absence of leadership. Could you tell us your current assessment of South Korean politics right now?
So as you know, I've been saying about crisis in Korean democracy, and actually a couple of years ago I published this book under that. And they'll identify three threats to Korean democracy. One is illiberalism, the second, populism, third, political polarization. And now, in the last few years, things have not really improved. And not only crisis in democracy, in my view, also crisis in political leadership. I'm talking about both ruling party and opposition party. And I don't see any political leader who really values democratic norms, respect for each other, and sort of agreeing to disagree kind of spirit. And it's really now fighting. It's not only competing over power, but they're fighting as if the other side is like an enemy. And I think now really the Korean leaders have to agree that they really work for people and for the nation, not fighting over small or trivial things. So that's why I've been saying that in addition to crisis in democracy, now Korea is facing a crisis in political leadership, and it's really concerning for me and other people as well.
Concerning indeed. Well, Dr. Shin, that being said, we have general elections coming up this April. And regardless of the result, what do you believe Seoul needs to do to upgrade this politics and its democracy?
Yeah, for one thing, Koreans need to realize that now they are really having crisis in democracy, so political leadership. And right now, Korean election system, both president and also general election, it's basically winner take all system. If you look at last presidential election, the margin of victory was less than 1%. It's a really thin margin, but still the winner takes all, right? And same thing for parliamentary election. It's a single. In each district, elect only one, winner, right? So then let's say one person gets 15%, the other one 49%. They elect only one person. So they really have to change system. So therefore, given like in a single district, they can elect 2 or 3 people, for example. But eventually, it is my belief that Korea needs to establish a parliamentary system, and there I think they can promote coalition among different political parties. They can promote more compromise. They can promote more cooperation. So I mean, it's a very long-term goal, and I think a lot of Korean leaders and intellectuals, they recognize, but still they're not able to change because of their vested interest. But then, so that's why I think it's one thing to see outcomes of the election next April, but what's a long-term future for Korean democracy? That's something we have to think very carefully and very seriously.
All right. Well, it seems it'd be really important for us to, first of all, realize the democratic crisis we are facing and rethink about this overall system, as you have already said. Now, Dr. Shin, lastly, to culture. From BTS to Squid Game, South Korea's soft power significantly improved and is evident even in the U.S. as well. What do you believe were the reasons behind such a rise in Seoul's cultural power?
Right, it's really amazing to see the rise of Korean cultural power or soft power, around the world. And I'm not an expert of Korean culture, but as a sociologist, I can mention a few things why Korean culture became so popular. Okay, one is it's quite natural because cultural power follows economic power. So Korea has been developing economically over the last several decades. So it's about time to accumulate cultural power. But also, I think Korea was able to address issues of universal value, such as like inequality, competition in capitalist society, and so on. So if you look at like Parasite, it's a great portrait of inequality in current society. If you look at like Squid Game, it portrays in a current society or capitalism as a life and life and death contest, for example. So I think Korea was able to address those issues of universal concern very nicely. Third one, you could say that Korea was just lucky in the right timing because they were able to capitalize on global platforms such as YouTube, Netflix, and so on. So certainly, Korea has a very strong IT power, but then it's able to capitalize those platforms. Finally, you could say that Korea was able to develop very unique kind of management system or what they call culture industry, culture technology. Basically, from casting to training to producing to marketing, it's a very coherent system. So that was really able to produce many pop stars and good drama on the global stage. So probably all this combined to produce such a powerful soft power in the world.
All right, I see your point. Now, Dr. Shin, we are running out of time, but I'd like to ask you this last question. So being recognized is one thing, of course, but another is to maintain this soft power and upgrade to become a global cultural powerhouse. In what ways could South Korea's soft power be boosted, in your opinion?
Only one thing I'd like to highlight is that now many Korean stars, okay, they need to take more responsibility for global issues. Now they became very popular. They have bigger voice in the world. They should use those power to address global issues such as like racism, inequality, war and peace, like North Korean human rights violation and so on. So I think only then I think Korean soft power can get the real respect and recognition in the world.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Shin, for your point of view. Now, there's much more I'd like to ask and get your insight on, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's edition. Dr. Shin, thank you for your time and insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year. That's all for Within the Frame tonight. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.